The Point, 98.7 CKPM FM.
Good morning. It is 7:58, and we are going to talk ice cream. You know what? Let's start early on this one. We're not going to dive in right now, but we got some time to have some fun. Better with Foods 100% honest ice cream. We're going to delve into that a little more after 8 o'clock, but Lori's here and Carlo the Conqueror. Good morning.
Good morning.
And how did you get, Lori, how did you get hooked up with Carlo here?
Well, firstly, I was hoping you were going to explain what Carlo the Conqueror meant, because I've known him now for a year and I've never heard that reference.
Okay, see, this came about because he is on a mission, okay? So he likes helping people and he likes building empires. And he's done this with Sandpiper, with Snapped, with, now he's got the new venture with Jeff and Coriana. Anchor Awards. So he's building his little empires. And it came about because somebody started calling him Carlos all the time. And then I thought, no, Carlos, no. So we just changed it to Carlo the Conqueror so people would change that. And now he's the head, the bigwig over at the Tri-City Chamber of Commerce.
Well, I guess that's why we get along.
Yeah.
I'm in his parade.
Yeah.
You know?
And then Carlo, of course, hopped on board with you, I guess, last late summer, was it?
Yeah, that's right, actually. So my narrative, not sure what Carlo's is that my business plan was sitting on the desk of my banker. And Carlo used to mentor her, and he just saw the business plan and said, who is that? I want to meet her. And the introduction was made, and I think we got married like 6 months ago.
Nice. And so now you've got, so you saw the business plan, so you're in there meeting the banker, right? And you've got this uncanny ability to read things upside down, don't you? That's how you saw the business plan.
Yeah, totally. So my narrative is I saw, so it was actually Mike Hine through the chamber. I mean, this week when I gave my speech at the chamber, I talked about how most of the businesses I'm involved in happen because of someone at the chamber. So I met Mike Hine, or Mike Hine called me and said, there's a business talking to Janine, who at the time was chair of the chamber. And Janine knows Lori from way back, from the cupcake days.
And Janine is a fantastic lady. She used to work for Westminster Savings, and she moved on to a different venture recently. Her and her family of, what is she doing now?
Yeah, so she's actually the executive director for a not-for-profit fund downtown. So
Great.
I forget the name of it. Raymond James, I believe. It's the Raymond James Fund.
Cool.
She manages that.
And Janine and I met back in the day with cupcakes when she worked for Van City. And she was literally the first person, never mind the first female, but she was the first person, and along with that goes the first bank that really saw the potential in cupcakes and really believed in Heather and I.
Now, explain the cupcake angle here, because I'm sure a lot of you have had the cupcakes that you were involved with. Tell us a bit about those.
Well, Heather and I started cupcakes back in 2002, and that was merely, we didn't bake, we didn't come from the industry at all. We were in our mid-20s, and we just got really impatient working for other people. We were two best friends that for about 10 years always brainstormed different business ideas, but we always got preoccupied with life, and we were working literally at Ground Zero, 2001. Right there as they were pulling out bodies. It was an incredible, well, it was an incredibly sober experience, but I'm very grateful for the experience because it changed my life and my perspective on things. But innocently enough, I took Heather to Magnolia Bakery just to get a cupcake. I thought it was really cool. I grew up in a very traditional European family, so anything non-European I loved. I always was the one swapping my mom's apple strudel for like Rice Krispie squares. And so cupcakes was just another part of my staple diet at that time. And Heather just watched as everyone was grabbing these cupcakes in the corner. And the only reason why they were making cupcakes is they had extra cake batter. And we got in the cab, and I don't even think she got a cupcake. I bought a box of 4, and I just shoved them in my mouth, and she was like, this is what we should do. And I made fun of her as typical girlfriends do. And I was like, what are you talking about? We don't know how to bake. We never came from the industry. And I was so into my job at the time in my career of working for this local, incredible product. I hadn't quite hit the glass ceiling at that point. So I was still very positive and optimistic. And loyal for that matter. But 3 months later, on my own terms, I realized that I could not get through the glass ceiling. And we came across this retail space on Denman, and I just looked at Heather and I was like, let's do this. And she again, being the girlfriend, gave it right back to me and said, what are you talking about? You cut me down in the cab. And, for me, it wasn't about cupcakes. It was about, let's just try this. We were really, really just trying to plan our future. And it was like, let's open. And we opened in 3 months.
It's amazing. And I used to live with an ex of mine down in Gastown, above the old spaghetti factory, an old sandstone building there. And she said, you got to try these cupcakes. And it's like, huh? And so drove on over to Denman, got the cupcakes, ate them, put on about 80 pounds, and had a bunch of good quality food.
Well, it was a tremendous ride that I was on. I mean, we opened cupcakes. We had the day that we opened, we had about $2,000 in the bank. Our rent at that time on Denman was $8,500 a month. And my immigrant mother was like, wow, because of course she was the first person to cash in her RSPs. So we could put a first and last month security on that. And she looked at me and said, how many cupcakes is that? And I was like, God, Mom, that's a good question. And from that moment on, it was all very, let's just give whatever the customer demands, right? Like whatever they want, whatever they're asking for, let's just give them the best cupcakes. And so there wasn't really any business planning. And that's the great thing about starting Better With, is I've really taken on that experience of what we did right and what we did wrong. And now I'm excited to start something new.
I got to go back to something. So you're panicking, $2,000 in the bank, rent is $8,500, not including your utilities and everything else. How did you make it through that first month or two? Was business good enough to do that?
Well, by month 3, I lost my car. I got my apartment taken away from me. So it was survival. Yeah. I mean, we didn't have kids. We weren't married. It was totally adrenaline. There was no fear. Heather and I are truly, like, you have to be born as an entrepreneur. I really believe that. And so for us, it wasn't about how we were going to plan or how we were going to pay. We'd cash flow, right? And that cash came through every day. The U.S. economy was very strong. We had a lot of U.S. cash, and we just paid whoever needed it first. I remember CCRA calling me after 6 months of me not paying them, and I was like, what's CCRA? And I actually was like, well, you're the government, aren't you going to be sympathetic to a startup and a new business? And there's a lot of good stories with that.
That's nice. We're going to talk more to Lori Joyce from Better With Foods, and Carlo the Conqueror may get a word in edgewise. I find Lori more fascinating than you right now, Carlo, so I apologize.
As I do as well. So.
Well, that's what they say with people that bring treats, right?
Yeah. That's true. Hey, sunshine today. Take your sunglasses. There could be some black ice out there, too, so do take care. Watch out for slippery patches.
The Community Calendar.
A message from the Government of Canada.
Good morning. It is oh my gosh, it's a Tuesday morning. We're talking about businesses and everything else, and my mind is all over the place. And being somewhat of a wannabe entrepreneur, I am fascinated by Lori Joyce's story here. We are going to talk to Lori a bit more in a second. I got to do the 80s at 8 right now, and I've been so busy talking to Lori that I've missed.
Oh, you got to play
the song.
Madonna.
Well, the Beastie Boys are going to come up because you're huge on that.
One.
But okay, so you know what? I'll do that. And while I'm talking about that, I really wanted to play some John Fogerty because John Fogerty on this day played for the first time in 14 years in this date in 1985, and he's an ultimate artist who has been screwed by his record company, so he wasn't allowed to play his songs. So we're going to get some CCR a little bit later on. But Lori, you got a choice. Sure Shot, Sabotage, Fight for Your Right, or Check It Out.
Sabotage.
All right. Here it is, the 80s at 8, Beastie Boys on a point. .98.7 The Point, Beastie Boys, Sabotage. Lori Joyce is here, and she requested that, and we blew the dust off of all the speakers within the listening radius here. Your music is a big part of your life, isn't it?
Oh, isn't it part of yours?
Well,
of
it
all
is,
of us.
but no, there's people that don't really like music. They don't like, and I can't figure it out. Like some people don't like pets.
If on any given morning of commute, if you drove past me, you would think something was wrong with me. Firstly, you can hear me well before I pull up to the intersection. And I'm that car where it's like, where is that noise coming from? And then you see me, and I'm either in a fight with myself or I'm just flailing. Like I'm rocking it every morning.
So you're come from an immigrant family. Where did you grow up? Did you grow up on the West Coast?
I was born in Victoria, but both of my parents immigrated here in the early 70s from Croatia.
Nice. Okay, so now back to growing up. When did you move to Vancouver? How long ago?
As fast as I could get out of Victoria.
Newlywed or nearly dead.
It was my excuse to go to UBC.
So that means you got here and you got to experience some of the live music here in Vancouver, and so almost like, I don't want to say underground scene, because Vancouver, when you go to DOA and bands like that, that wasn't really underground. That was mainstream on the coast here, but you got to experience all the great music here.
You know what? I was a total dork in my 20s.
Really?
Yeah. I didn't get cool until a couple years ago. I don't even understand what happened to me. I moved to Vancouver. I had my own apartment. I was living by myself, 16th and Granville, like in a cool area.
Yeah.
And I literally went to school and studied and came home. And I didn't do the scene. A little bit later, I definitely hit the concerts. It's very broad mix. My favorite concert ever was at, is that the Orpheum? What is it on Granville Street? I saw Chris Isaak.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Which was just incredible. But, everything from Lenny Kravitz to U2, I mean, just the main bands that were touring.
So what did you listen to when you were a kid if you weren't really like, you've always liked music, obviously, because you don't just wake up one day and say, I like music. You might wake up and say, well, my tastes have changed. But when you were a kid, what did you listen to?
Well, aside from Croatian music that my mom made me listen to growing up and polka, I definitely went the opposite. So as we were just talking about, I mean, high school, probably I was influenced by my early boyfriends. I would say Led Zeppelin, a lot of 70s stuff, Bob Dylan, obviously Pink Floyd. But then then Madonna came along, and we all, honestly, no matter what you're listening to, everyone remembers Madonna, and you know what? And that introduced me to pop. George Michael, Freedom '91 was my record.
Wow, that's cool. Now, Carlo is here, and he's been uncharacteristically quiet. Now, you are a big music fan too, and I understand you had some interesting musical tastes as you were growing up, Carlo.
Yeah, I mean, I was everything heavy metal. So Iron Maiden, Black Sabbath, Twisted Sister, all of that.
Now, did you have leather pants?
I did not. You know what? Because I was a jock. I played hockey, and I think that's why the heavy metal resonated with me, because, when you're playing sports or whatever, it was, what you listen to get up for the game. So my favorite concert was, I still remember it was Iron Maiden, Twisted Sister, and Girls' School. So it was like back to back to back, and it was off the hook.
See, and for me, I loved, you just reminded me, I loved Twisted Sister, but my parents refused to buy me. Remember, it was the cassette tape,
right?
And the cover, they just refused to buy that for me. So,
but like Lori said, you know what? When Madonna came along, I think she kind of flipped everybody into that genre, right? She was that influential.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I was right at that age. I was probably like 13, 14,
Yeah.
We were all dancing around like a virgin at that point.
There are so many lines I could use right now, but so Lori is here, Lori Joyce, Better With Foods, and this is amazing. So Better With Foods, explain what Better With Foods or Better With Ice Cream is.
Well, the name, this is kind of a little secret for all of you. Good morning. Because of cupcakes, a couple years ago, I felt that it was very necessary to add the obvious pairing to cupcakes. And that's where the name came about, because cupcakes are better with ice cream.
You're right. And you know what? When you're talking about cupcakes, I was eating this fantastic...
That's coffee. I brought you coffee.
100% honest ice cream, but all I could taste is your icing on your cupcakes. It tasted very similar to that full, rich flavor. Not so much like the texture, but the flavor, the full, rich flavor.
Well, it's because it's simple. The ice cream and the cupcakes both share the same principles, right? It's all about honesty with quality ingredients. So I brought you cream. Okay. And the reason why cream is important is, never mind the fact that Better With is the only ice cream brand that does a flavor like this. It's our flavor that's a non-flavor. So cream is the base. It's where every ice cream starts before you add a flavor to it. And what you're eating right there is only made with 4 ingredients. So the traceable cream, and I'm very proud of this, but this took a long time. But what that means, what traceable milk means, is you can trace it back to the farm. So the only milk that we have in our ice cream comes from one farm out in Abbotsford.
So when I heard traceable, I thought maybe you had cows on little ankle bracelets that weren't allowed to go anywhere. So their work release program is giving milk.
No, those are happy cows. I mean, when you drive up to that farm, it's literally green pastures and white fences.
They're getting massages and listening to classical music.
Nice. Now, but this is so that tastes like.
It's like frozen whipping cream.
Well, even better because coming from a bit of a farm background, getting the milk out of the cow and the cold milk, that actually it's nice that flavor. That's what you've captured in that.
Well, there's no flavor in that, and that's why it heightens the milk, right?
Yeah.
More importantly, because vanilla really owns the category in ice cream, I don't understand that. I'm not actually a fan of vanilla. But I wanted something that was going to go up and compete against vanilla, but that had more versatility. So the great thing about this flavor is, and you can't do this with vanilla, is it pairs nicely with savory. So on our website, for example, there'll be recipes for adding a really small batch, like a nice smoky olive oil to it, which is unusual. I know a lot of people look at me, they give me the same reaction as you are. And they tilt their head, but it's a beautiful combination. Affogato is another example. So pour like a really nice hot, fresh espresso, which is what we should have this morning. That would be perfect for breakfast.
Yeah, Carlo, where's your coffee shop? Have you bought one of those yet?
Yes, I have. Yeah, I know. Everybody keeps saying we need to open one up on Burke Mountain, though. There, right by the 7-Eleven there and the TD Bank. Everybody's asking me, why don't you open a coffee shop up on Burke Mountain? So maybe someday.
Yeah, that's another story for another day on that because we're growing so fast here. But Lori Joyce, Better with Foods, Carlo Zarrillo, or we call him Carlo the Conqueror, Better with Ice Cream, and it's amazingly good. I could probably eat all of this, and so I'm looking at it. So there's 15% fats. Now, when you get to all this, how healthy is all that? Like, you're going to get fat in ice cream because ice cream is a luxury, right?
Oh, this is high fat.
Yeah.
You're going to get really fat eating this ice cream. That's the point of it. I did not want to create, same with cupcakes, right?
Yeah.
In our buttercreams and in our product, we only use butter. And with the ice cream, I wanted to make something that kept along with the same lines. It was traditional. I wanted it to taste like the 1950s ice cream that your mom took you to.
You just said something. My grandma used to work at and Carlo is going to all of a sudden smile right here, Birds Hill, Manitoba. There was a solo food store with a little cafeteria as you come up the road. So it's basically you go up Henderson Highway, turn right, and then you drive down the road. You get to downtown Birds Hill, which is a solo food store, and the cafe.
That would be Hodnot.
Yeah, Hodnot.
Turn right on Hodnot.
Hodnot Road. I didn't know anybody else would know that. So, but you get there, and my grandma worked there, and ice cream as a kid, because it was real ice cream. We went away from the real stuff into the crap that we had through the 80s.
And you'll notice on the packaging, deliberately and purposefully, that's why it says 100% honest ice cream. Mm-hmm. So everything that goes into the ice cream, whether it's the flavors today or the flavors of the future or tomorrow, will always be based on what's best for the product, what's the accountability that I can hold with the supplier, where the flavors are coming from or the ingredients. So based on that, it has to be honest. And it has to be real. And that's what that means. As a customer and not coming from the business, I was pissed when I discovered that I was buying ice cream, but the fine print said frozen dessert. And that happens today, right? It's common.
And I just read a story about somebody else, a quality name that has now moved away from ice cream to frozen milk or whatever it is. And,
Well, it's funny because we actually had a great feature in the Globe and Mail a couple of weeks ago, and it was incredible how many people I heard from that used to be in the industry and on principle left the industry because they couldn't work for a company that was literally saying one thing and doing another. And this one guy, I won't mention any names, but he said he worked for a West Coast dairy ice cream manufacturer that was called ice cream on the label, but it was made with ice milk. And with the labeling, they were allowed to do that. And so it brings it back to honest, and it brings it back to the way I was brought up. I mean, my parents I was raised on a farm. My parents have been practicing sustainability, organic, and composting ever since I was born. So it's funny how you grow up and you're influenced, but then you kind of always go back to your upbringing.
That's because you grow up and you realize your parents were kind of onto something.
Yeah,
It takes a while, doesn't it, Carlo?
Yeah, it sure does. And you know what's important too is that people these days are starting very smartly to read ingredient labels. And I think the Canadian government and CFIA have done a great job making sure companies are putting what's really in their product on the label and on the ingredient list. I mean, I see it all the time. Yesterday, I had a board meeting with my other company, and I stopped at Choices to pick up some Better With. I was going to take them some ice cream in. And I was standing beside a lady who picked up a pint of Better With and immediately turned it over and was reading the ingredient list. So got into a nice conversation about her, and she said, like, I just can't believe that this ice cream has like 5 ingredients plus flavors. And so, you know, people are starting to get it that, you know, if you can't understand the ingredient list, you shouldn't buy the product.
Well, and that's really what real means, right? So it took a while as well for me to create a formula that had no preservatives. And I did that for my kids.
Right.
You know, I'm never going to deprive my family of ice cream. And so it's like, if you're going to eat it, let's eat the real stuff. And I was surprised because I spend a lot of times right now in the grocery store in front of the customer doing demos. And at least one person per demo will tell me that they're allergic to carrageenan. And so they're shocked. I had one woman hug me and say, I haven't eaten ice cream in 6 years. Thank you.
Wow, that's just, I mean, you look at it, yeah, it's like ingredients in the coffee. Traceable cream, organic, and traceable means not traces of cream, but you can trace it back to where it came from, the farm. Organic sugar, egg yolk, skim milk powder, instant Colombian coffee, natural coffee flavor. May contain peanuts or nuts, but that's, you know, but still there's no name that you can't pronounce. Like you said, if you can't pronounce a name, why are you eating it?
Yeah, if you see things like xanthan gums and ascorbic acids, and you know, it right off the bat says that they're having to put something in there to preserve it, or they're having to put something in there to actually, you know, increase the density of it, you know, which is a cost savings, right?
Well, it is because they're doing something and they're putting a chemical in there that's saving them money, right? Instead of using more of the real thing.
And it's good because I've had this discussion. I've got a 10-year-old, and we were talking. They're finally in grade 5. They're finally doing something about diet. So they're doing a diet diary. So what am I eating for this week? And they got to write it down. And we started talking about the ingredients, and we were driving down the road, and he's reading. What's this mean, Dad? What's this? And I'm trying to explain to him how it's all laid out. So it's something that we should be teaching our kids sooner, so they'll grow and they'll take along your path and bring back better foods. I think more nutritious foods.
I think what's more important than that is taking kids to where food starts. I think more kids need to spend more time on farms.
Oh, but that's cruel because you have animals in captivity. Sarcasm, sorry.
I can handle that. I mean, I grew up on a farm, and as I said earlier, my parents totally live off that land. So when you're having lunch or dinner at my parents' house, that chicken is alive.
Yeah.
And it's fresh.
Well, hopefully they cooked it. It's not alive on the table,
but and for some people, obviously this is controversial, but that those animals live in a very happy environment. You know, there's no stress. My dad is literally the mayor of the farm, right? It's free range. It's all open. They're let out in the morning and they're brought in at night.
You know, and you see this. Happy animals make happy farmer, because if he's stressed out, then all of a sudden all the animals are stressed out. You know, you can tell when your dad's worried about one particular animal, then he gets a little stressed and the other animals start affecting it. So it's true. Animals can read the vibes, and happy animals, happy food.
Oh, I take every opportunity to go back to the farm, and it's in Victoria, and I was there 2 weeks ago because I was doing a demo, and my parents literally, they see the signs of the direction of where a chicken is looking. So they can tell if there's a vulture. They can tell if they're threatened just by the behavior of the animal that's on the farm. So, absolutely. My dad's so fantastic. He's the greatest man I've ever known, and He always says, the more I get to know my friends, or the more I get to know humans, the more I prefer my animals.
And animals are cool, right? And yeah. We're coming to, we could spend another hour talking about this, but I got to ask you now. So from your cupcakes, when your mom's sort of shaking her head, where are you going to get the money, to now? What has your mom said about your recent endeavors and your success?
Well, it was with cupcakes. It was 14 years of. We had the TV show, right?
Yeah.
So there was just constantly stuff happening with us. So it was really exciting. My mom and dad would come over from Victoria and help out whenever they could. But my mom, despite the fact that she came here by herself, literally, when she was 18, so she takes on risk as well. She's not risk when it comes to money. And so with me having a young family, wanting to start a new business, she was very nervous. But I have to say, I have a close relationship with my parents, and they trust me. And they've taught me trust. And so they were the first people to really step up and say, we're going to help you financially. We're going to support you. Ultimately what it comes down to, they believe in me. So they took out a second mortgage. And so I think that's a sign. And they live in Victoria. There's a Whole Foods there, and they probably buy more ice cream there than anybody.
That's neat. Now, Carlo Zarrillo's here, and this has been all about Lori. So, Carlo, you're going to come in another day, and we're going to play a bunch of music that you want to play. But you talk about you're like another parent figure that has come into Lori's life here because you've helped her go on to the next step.
I mean, I think, Lori's amazing. She probably, she probably doesn't need much help. And I think the company that I run out in Chilliwack, we've partnered with Lori. And so what we're doing, if we're doing anything, or what I'm doing is one of Lori's blind spots is retail. Lori's been very much front and center in the food industry, but from a retail perspective, that's my background. So, when Lori and I met, the first thing I said to her that's one of the best created names for a brand, but not just a brand of ice cream. If you think about Better With, think about every category of the grocery store. You could have Better With sauces, you could have Better With toppings, you could have Better With salad dressings. And the great thing is that we're building this brand that stands for something. Honesty, clean ingredients, and decadent. So we could go right across the grocery store. So when Lori and I met, we're getting excited here this morning. When Lori and I met, it was like, we couldn't stop talking about the possibilities of working together, and it's been a great experience. And I'm lucky to be surrounded by so many amazing women in my life. Lori's another one. Lori's just killing it, just absolutely killing it.
You're right, and I got to go back to something you're Better With. You've got one hole in your plan to conquer the retail industry. Better with broccoli. I don't think there's anything.
But better with sauce to put on the broccoli.
Oh, this is great. Now, where can I get Better With ice cream?
Locally, and thank you very much to the local retailers. We have Palm Market, which is now listing Better With ice cream, and we also have Donald's Market in Poco listing it. So we're being very strategic. Again, I've been on the nose of hundreds of brand launches, and one of the mistakes you can make, and a lot of companies do make, is they get too far ahead of themselves. We're really walking, and we're really stepping into this, so those are the two retailers locally, but Choices Market, Whole Foods, Nesters, these are all retailers that have embraced the brand and doing really well with it.
And you're right, because you've got to stay small to be successful like this. You can't go and mass produce this and all of a sudden a nationwide brand is carrying your ice cream, because honestly, it won't be the same.
No, absolutely. And that's not the point. The point is to also communicate the message.
Yeah.
And I want to create a pull effect. So I want the consumer, when they're walking into that grocery store or they're walking down the frozen aisle, they're specifically going to buy the Better With because they're familiar with what it means and what it stands for.
See, it's like destination shopping. You go because you crave that. You want that. That's cool.
Well, and that's kind of the potential that I have right now, being small, thinking small right now, and working with grocers that are very community-centric. They understand that. Eventually, the big picture absolutely is to go national down the road, but not until we're ready, and not until we actually can do it without compromising on the product.
Well, and that's it, because you're going to have your traceable cows in Calgary. You're going to have your traceable cows in Regina, your traceable cows in Manitoba, your traceable cows in Quebec City.
But those farms exist in all of those provinces. The difference between my milk and versus the milk that you'd buy in a grocery store is it's just not part of the pool.
And I can't even drink milk like that. It's just, I find it so disgusting these days. So, to have something quality and whole like this is great.
Well, what's great is being able to hold the farmer accountable. And in Abbotsford, it's the Lavender Farm, their third generation Dutch family. All they're focused on is their cows and making good milk. Okay, so Dutch, they've got to love this product, don't they? What do they think of it? In the beginning, just like everybody else, everyone was doubting it, right? The frozen aisle it's the most competitive. Yeah. And then it's owned by a handful of monopolies. So when I came around, and I didn't come from the food industry, everyone was just like, well, you're not going to do this. Companies like the big companies are just going to bleed you until you can't make it with cash flow, which is why it's so important. And, to contradict what Carlo just said, I absolutely need him because of his experience, right? You're right. And this is the thing now, because as a society, we're going back, and the push is here in Vancouver. Well, in the West Coast, to get healthier food, to get quality food like this. Well, what's really great, actually, is I love the timing that we're in right now, because I feel for the first time, not only in Canada, but on the West Coast, we're a real leader when it comes to innovation and trend, especially in food. Growing up in the 80s, it was all very Americana. What was going on in the States is what we followed, but the opposite is true now. A lot of Canada's on the map on an international level for what's trending, and that's quality. It's Canadian products that are made all natural, that are made with real ingredients.
Just jumping in there, I think what's really cool and what's really been fun is we're coming into a huge category that everybody says it's going to be very difficult to win in, but we're coming in as the disruptor. So if you think about the Ubers and the Airbnbs, we're coming into this category as the disruptor, and that's what the consumer is just absolutely resonating with. In fact, I tell everybody I come into contact with that I have been on the nose of when I was with Kraft Foods and Cadbury and Colgate, these companies, I was on the nose of a lot of great product launches. I have never seen a response like I have seen on Better With Ice Cream. It's just amazing. Right place and right time, and it is absolutely fantastic. And once again, the coffee I've had, you can only eat so much because it's so rich and good, so you can't sit down and eat a pint. Well, maybe you could, but I can't, because it's good. It's there to savor. Well, and that's control, right? That was intentional. I don't want people. We grew up in the 80s eating 4-liter pails of ice cream, and the reason why you had to eat 4 liters is that's what it took to get satisfied. But if you make something that has little air in it, which is, so you're actually eating cream. It's denser, yes. Yeah, that's what makes a big difference. You're actually getting indulgence and pure satisfaction out of 1 or 2 spoons of, mouthfuls. Excellent. Lori Joyce, Better With Foods, Carlo Zarrillo. Carlo is, I don't know, what hat are you wearing today? What's that? What hat are you wearing? I'm actually heading over to Sandpiper Signs for Sandell Foods meeting.
Slash Better With.
Slash Better With Snap Tri-Cities, and I might even look at some awards with Anchor Awards and engraving. Nice. Thank you so much for being here, and you are welcome to come back anytime. You can come and spend an hour playing music and talking about ice cream and other stuff, too. I'm going to hold you to that. Definitely. And Carlo is coming in here one day. We got the Twisted Sister all lined up for him. I'll go Iron Maiden, Run to the Hills.
I'm going to listen to Twisted Sister.
Are you? Okay.
Excellent. Hey, sunshine today, highs to about 4. Take your sunglasses. Still a little slippery out there with black ice. On the way, we got some wars slipping into darkness. A taste of Throwback Thursday next.
The lights, the lasers, the music of Pink Floyd.